I'm Christian Lavolsi, and welcome to the Hot Seat.
On the Hot Seat, we tackle the toughest business questions, addressing the most pressing issues our business community faces today. We dive into the core of business growth and strategic development. Whether you're launching a startup, managing a growing business, or refining an established enterprise, we're here to provide you insights that you need. Get ready for candid conversations and practical advice that you can implement today. Stay with us and let's grow your business together.
You've just spent a week in Fiji.
Yep.
You don't look that tanned, actually. How's your week been?
Not at all. No, I'm doing great. It's been amazing. Fiji was awesome. Went for a bit of work, hung out with my family a little bit, and so it was amazing. And yes, I actually have a pretty good tan for someone who saw 3 days of sun. My wife is she gets very grumpy at how quickly I tan, and so I think I was going like this to her on the plane. I'm like, "Hey, honey, look at that." And she's like, "Oh, you suck so much." It's like she couldn't get color on it if she tried. But yeah, no, it was really good. I think I might move to Fiji and soak up a bit more sun and work from there. I can't see why not.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. And I'm sure, we're here to talk business, and we're going to get into that very shortly. I want to talk all today about having cash reserves, what we call a war chest in your business. And I'm sure there's a lot of business owners out there thinking right now, man, I wish I could go to Fiji for business and do those kinds of things. So I'd like to talk about some of that stuff with you today for those people that feel like they would just never be able to have that opportunity and or step out of their day-to-day to be able to do those things. So looking forward to unpacking this with you today, Christian. My first question that I wanted to ask you is, how much is enough to have as a cash stash or a war chest in your business?
Oh, look, I'll answer you the Christian Lavolsi way. It's never enough. And now I'm going to give you the advisory response, which is one of the same. It's just that my expectations are a bit ridiculous. Look, the appropriate size, Simone, of any cash reserve, or as what we call in business, the war chest, well, it does vary significantly depending on several factors. And they are very specific to each business. So on a general guideline, I would recommend that you have enough to cover operating expenses for a period of between 3 and 6 months. Okay, and this provides a cushion that can help your business navigate through any kind of unforeseen challenges, but even take care or take advantage of strategic opportunities without an immediate financial strain. And that's the most important part. A lot of people build cash reserves and war chests for the unforeseen challenges. I've been building war chests for the ability to take advantage of those strategic opportunities without putting any strain on my business. Okay, so some of those factors to consider for people is industry volatility. Okay, really important. The size and the size of your business, but also the stage of where you're at. So smaller or newer businesses often find themselves in, say, more precarious financial situations, and therefore they might benefit from a larger relative reserve to buffer against uncertainties. Now, so many business people I meet when they start their businesses never have enough money, okay? And then they wonder why they're chasing their tail for the first 1, 2, 3 years, and then they go broke. People say, "Oh, I'm not going to spend money on strategy because it's a sunk cost," right? We call that a bloody J curve, right? So the idea is you invest so then you can make money. And why? Because a lot of people then fail even at the execution side. So you need to have a certain amount of money. So if you think you need 50 grand in operating cash, you need 150. Okay? Don't even start your business if you don't have that money. And because you'll go broke anyway. right? And it'll cost you everything you have. Then you've got, operational expenses. So you got to really calculate what your regular operating costs are, including payroll, rent, utilities, and say other fixed expenses too. But understanding your burn rate, right? So how quickly you spend cash, Simone, that is actually crucial. Now, if you're a new business, then you've got to have some really good forecasting. And again, this is where great advice is immeasurable in terms of what it's worth. I highly recommend that if you're going to get that level of advice, that's where accountants can be quite useful, because they've got generally a spectrum of different clients, and therefore they can give you a rough idea, but they've never actually operated those businesses, so they got really no idea of what really that runway looks like. But they can give you a good forecast, and then go speak to someone who's founded 80 companies, and there's not that many of us in the world, and then you can get some real insight into what you need. That was a shameless plug for the amount of companies that I've founded so far. So you've got to have access to the right credit, and it's really important. So whether you've got an overdraft, people over the years have gotten really trigger happy on taking these 14, 15, 20, 25% loans from what used to be called loan sharks, and now are facial reputable looking companies. They're still sharks, and once you get into one of those loans, you'll be paying it back, and you'll know about it, and it can be a real issue trying to refinance it with a local bank. So always talk to your local bank first. Yes, they are painful and difficult, but it will teach you how to actually have a good cash flow and a forecast to be able to give to them. Our clients all have those tools in our toolbox. And make sure that you've got your growth plan. Make sure you've got your strategy. Make sure that you've got it mapped out, and make sure that you've got an execution strategy as well. Something I've been talking a lot about. And 94% of people who have a strategy never execute it correctly. And a lot of the time is they go and hire a strategist, they write the strategy, and then they fail to understand the strategist wrote the strategy, and normally you need the strategist to help you execute it. But people go, oh, I'm going to try and do it myself because I know best. I started a business and I know best. And it's kind of like, I was there once too. I started my first business, I didn't listen to anyone. I started my 18th business, and I still didn't listen to anyone. And then when I lost pretty much everything, I was like, shit, I should have listened to more people. And the irony of it is, as you get older, you start to get a little bit wiser and you ask questions. So for those people out there listening, which, by the way, there is one person, whoever that may be, love you. Great to have you here. Unfortunately, this thing never really tells us, because it doesn't count anyone on LinkedIn, and we know we've got thousands of people there watching. But look, actionable steps. You've got to perform some kind of financial audit, okay? You've got to create a savings plan, and you've got to monitor as well as adjust. Now, I want to give you, as always, I love giving examples. And, I recently was doing some work understanding for a client their warchest requirement, and they're quite big. They're $31 million. And so I went to look at what Apple was doing. And so Apple is actually renowned as for maintaining one of the largest cash reserves in corporate history. Okay. And it's always cited as a strategic asset that allows them incredible flexibility. Now, the amount of money they have is in the trillions. It's ridiculous. So this reserve actually enables them to invest in research and development aggressively. It allows them to weather the economic downturns if they're ever impacted by those, and they get to make strategic acquisitions without the need to seek any external funding. Now, this approach, while on a much larger scale, what it does, Simone, it actually illustrates the principle that having robust cash reserves can be a critical component of strategic financial management. Right now, so if you evaluate these factors and following the steps that I've talked through, you can actually determine the appropriate size for your war chest that not only secures your business against those unforeseen financial challenges that I was referring to earlier, but also positions you very well for taking advantage of those growth opportunities as they arise. And I think that's probably the most important message in that question, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's about maximizing those opportunities when they come your way. This is not my second question, but I'd love to ask, do you see people get really excited when they start building that war chest and it just like burns a hole in their pocket and they just want to spend it? Do you
Look,
see that happening, or people normally stay really focused?
no, they don't. And speaking from experience, I build my war chest and then I go, oh, I want that, and I go and buy it, and it's a business expense, but I'll go and spend more to grow, and that's not its purpose. And that recently happened. I think I was telling you guys, we overspent a couple of $100,000, and just trying to take the business to the next level. And I also love to test before we tell our clients to go away and do it. And so I kind of make a lot of the financial screw ups before the clients do, because I do it for them. And I've got to kind of pan that back. It's getting a bit ridiculous. And so that did affect, it did affect my confidence, because all of a sudden I went from having 6 months of cash reserves to cover operational payroll and all those things to 3 months. And that really got me worked up. And so I've had to go and be really tight for the next 6 months to go, no, I need that back up. And I guess the advantage I have over most people is that because I've got, half a dozen businesses, I have 6 months worth of war chests in each of them. So the advantage I have is that I could easily tap into an opportunity that might be even bigger. And so I've got to be really careful of that. And I'm lucky that I've got the most amazing wife in the world who only puts one leash on me. And I mean that in the most respectful way. And that is, I am not allowed to invest more than my investment allowance without sitting down with her and having a conversation, because it would jeopardize everything that we've built, together. And so, and I love
that, though, because it's not just about you as the entrepreneur and the business owner, right? This is about family. This is about legacy. And even though if your partner isn't actively in the business, which Lucy is part in the business as well, but even if they're not a part of that, it's still a real life family conversation, right? You're affecting so many things within that dynamic.
Absolutely, Simone. And one of the things that we spend a lot of time working on, and I'm pretty sure that this was not something I ever set out to, but a lot of clients have feedback has been, thank you for saving my marriage. Thank you for saving my relationship. And I don't think that we've ever put enough emphasis in that in any of our marketing activities, which we are going to now. There's a lot of things that we're about to change because we haven't really been telling our prospects out there the real story. Having just come away with being with some of the world's best coaches, predominantly marketing coaches, and being one of few business coaches / business advisors, it really dawned on me how world class we are as an organization, but no one knows about it because we don't boast about our stats. We don't boast about our achievements. And, that's, I think, an Australian thing. Over the years, everyone said, Christian, you need to become more humble. And I took that as I need to stop telling people all the great shit we've done for our clients. And that's kind of the wrong intention. So I know this is not even the topic we're talking about, but anyone out there, it's really about brand width. And if you're not really telling people those achievements, and they are outstanding, but hanging around with such incredible talent around me, it made me realize, because when people ask me, Christian, what do you do? And I told them, and what have you done? And they would just look at me like, who the fuck are you? Like, why don't I know you exist? And these are guys that I look up to. And it was just the most incredible experience that I could have asked. And it wasn't what I was searching for. So it just made me realize that we're doing an injustice to all the business people out there that are doing good and want to do great. This is not about the people that are struggling, right? People that are struggling don't invest in cash reserves. Let's be really clear. They are chasing their tail. Now, yes, I can help you. We as a company can help you, but that's not necessarily where we're heading. And people say, oh, you love picking the winners. Of course I love picking the winners. I'm a winner, right? But you know what it is when you pick a winner, Simone, is you're picking someone who is doing the hard work, who is sitting there going, I'm going to start counting my pennies so I can protect the people in my company, that I can protect my family, that I can reduce the key person risk in my business. You know, the reason I started grappling with cash reserves was in the event that something happened to me. You know, when I found out that I had those 2 inoperable tumors, it was like, shit, I need to go from 3 months to 6 months, right, worth of cash reserves. So again, it's up to the business, you know. And now one of the things that I'll be working towards by September, October, one of my key strategies is to take us to 9 months of cash reserves. And then I want to do the Bill Gates, right? So Microsoft has 1 year. They have multiple years now, just like Apple. But he started with a vision of 1 year, right? And I always thought that was unimaginable. Now, across my half dozen entities, that starts to become a serious amount of money that's just sitting there, right, in escrow, right? It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And so you've got to also have some very clever strategies around what you do with that money. And for us, it's, going into highest interest earning accounts that you can, using it to offset any commercial loans that you have. That's not really a thing. It's not like a house, but it's trying to be really smart with the money. And that's the next thing that I'm sitting down with other experts saying, well, hang on a minute. If I'm going to get to a point where I've got 12 months, right, that starts to become a lot of money. Like, what am I going to do? Earn 2%? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm better off investing that in ads or drive more traffic, increase my revenue. Like, that's how my brain thinks. But at the same time, I look at it and go, if my companies have that kind of money in reserve, I can walk away whenever I want. And that is freedom. Like, if anyone out there listening, listen to my voice. There is nothing greater than freedom. Freedom to do whatever the hell you want, when you want, with whoever you want. And that is what Fiji was for me. The ability to just go, I'm going to hang out, I'm going to bring my whole family with me, right?
Yeah.
And what was it? What did I do when I did our growth school call? I said, who wants to do a retreat next year? And everyone's like, yes. And what did I say? Okay, what did I say? We've got to start working really hard so every member of our community can afford to do it with their family. Like it was, and that's because of our family first approach. And I think this is, again, really exploring what we really like as a group of people. Like this is not about just me. I mean, when I went away, a few people brought their families, but not everyone. Right? And some may not have families. Maybe it wasn't practically possible. There's people from all over the world. But I don't travel unless I bring my family.
It's quite distracting, right? When you're there for business, you just want to immerse into that. I think people need to be able to switch on or switch off. But okay, let's get into the weeds then. I'm going to ask my second question. And for those people that don't have a cash stash or a war chest yet, what is some of if they feel like there's nothing left at the end of the day, what are some of the tactics that they can start to use to go, all right, I'm going to make this happen. Let's start building cash.
Look, building those cash reserves from scratch, right? It's not easy, right? But nothing in business is easy, right? Entrepreneurship is hard, right? So you start by building that cash reserve when it seems like there's nothing left at the end of the month, okay? So think about that. It's the psyche. Right? It's daunting, but you've got to think that's exactly what it is. Now, even if there's only $5 left, that's a great start. But let me tell you something. It is achievable with disciplined financial management and my favorite word, strategic adjustments. Okay? Now, here's how I started creating my war chest, even when the funds were tight. Okay? So this is exactly how I did it. You got to begin by conducting a very thorough review of your current budget, okay? So many business owners don't budget. It's scary. Like, I go into people and say, do you have a budget? No. I'm like, man, you got last year's profit and loss statement? Yeah. Why don't we start with that? And then trim back 10% on costs. I just gave the biggest clue away of how you can do it. And now, you don't even have to do that. What about the last quarters? How do we trim the fat? 10, 15%. What about all those fucking subscriptions that you've got that you don't even use anymore? Trim them and then dump them into a cash reserve account. Like, this is simple, basic shit. But people don't think about it. This is why people out there listening, and even those not listening, and you've got friends in business, get them to listen to this. Right? This is simple. This is really simple. So then what you've got to do is negotiate better terms with your suppliers. Cut on non-essential expenses, those subscriptions that you don't need. Do you really need your business paying for Netflix, KO, Optus Sport, everything else? By the way, they're not business expenses, okay? So this is where I really dig into the weeds with people, right? Reducing your overhead costs like unused office spaces or services. I know people that are still paying rents in offices, right, where they've got 160 square meters, but they only need 50. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? We've got clients. We're not going to say who, one of the reasons they came to us is because, and when they said that to me, I almost died. I fell off my chair, didn't I? I was like, what do you mean you've been paying 55 grand a year rent? You're not using the space. That's every dollar. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, every dollar you save is 100% profit. Every dollar you save is 100% profit. Okay? It's 100% cash in the bank. Right? Boom. That's pretty straightforward, right? So that's the first way that I started building the thing. The other thing is you got to improve how you manage your cash flow, okay? Because that can free up all this other cash. So tighten up on your accounts receivable, okay? Ensuring that your clients pay on time by implementing stricter payment terms or early payment discounts, right? Extend accounts payable responsibly where possible without damaging the relationship with your supplier. Okay, manage your inventory more efficiently to avoid overstocking. I spoke to a client recently who was telling me that they had brought manufacturing in-house and put in $500,000 in warehousing, and now they're 400 grand in cash negative. And I'm like, mate, your money's sitting in stock. Move the stock. Mm-hmm. And then your CapEx expense, so you got an OpEx problem, then you got a CapEx problem, right? And that CapEx problem is because you've invested $1 million. Now that CapEx problem is causing you a cash flow problem because you've got that at fucking 7.5%, 8%. So now you're paying $75,000 in interest. Sure, that can come off your P&L as a tax deduction. But if you don't got the money, fuck, the tax deduction is rendered useless. Yeah. Oh, but I can accumulate tax losses. Mate, who gives a shit? Again, I mean, look, this is me smacking it down. I've had enough of the mediocre stuff that we do, and I love the money talk. You know that, right? And a lot of people look at me and go, mate, why aren't you an accountant? Because I'm better, right? Like, I don't need an accounting degree. I've got 80 ventures under my belt. I know how I've lost money. I know how to make it. And I've taken on so much advice over the last particularly 10, 14 years from bloody great people. I've paid for it, right? None of this is my own shit. This is shit that I've paid for, accumulated, practiced, executed. So if you're here listening and you don't take my advice, you're fucking stupid, right? Like, that's as simple as that. This shit drives me crazy, Simone. You know that. Because I hate it when people, and this is free. You could jump onto this and listen to this and it's free. Like, what are you going to do? Go to Financial Planner and ask them for the same thing? Like, you're nuts. Use this. It's practical, right? I'm giving it all away. I'm over this whole don't give the how-to bullshit, right? Like, I'm coming out for, and this is what I really came away in Fiji, I need to be me. And me is, I want to give you all the information you need. And if you think that then I can help you, then you can pay me, right? And I can guarantee you're going to want me because I've got so many hours of experience. It's ridiculous, right? So the other approach that I took was incremental savings. I said that earlier, right? Large savings, ladies and gentlemen, are impossible. They're not possible, right? Unless you've got some amazing MRR coming in each month, it's impossible because an MRR, by the way, that's compounding, okay? And if you don't know what that means, you need to work with us, right? Consider an incremental approach. So set aside a small percentage of all incoming revenue as a reserve. Adjust this percentage as finance improves, right? So, what about creating additional revenue streams? I don't have ever my hand in one pot. I've got it in 3 or 4 pots, right? Without overextending myself. So I know that I've got multiple income streams. It fascinates me how many people have no idea of how many companies I actually still run simultaneously on top of running an advisory firm. People think that all I do is run an advisory firm. It's like, you're tripping, mate. Like, there's no way. I could never do that. Right now, some people would argue, well, if I put my attention on all of those, they'd be, 8-figure businesses. Yeah, you're probably right. But I'm kind of happy when they're 7 figures. right? I don't need to overextend myself to that level. And there's other motivations involved, right? So, generate those additional revenue streams. Look at introducing new offers. I'm about to drop a massive new offer next week. I've created a brand new product. It's going to be an absolute cracker. If you want to work with me, this is the cheapest way that you're ever going to be able to work with you. And I'm going to work you through it myself, step by step. Not with one coaching call a week, but with 2, right? And it's going to be crazy, right? That's all I'm telling you. You're going to have to find out more. Drop us an email, right? Use your financial tools, right? So leverage. Leverage is one of the most important factors in scaling. Okay, so leverage the tools, use your budgeting software, use Xero. There's so much data that you can put in there and get information out. Consider consulting with, a financial advisor, not an accountant, a financial advisor who might be able to help you. These guys, they're expensive, right? Like, if you think $4,000 is expensive for a consultation, but generally they can find that money back. Now, a lot of these guys then charge you $4,000 per month, and that's when it gets expensive, right? So depending on where you're at in this thing, in your income, I don't spend that kind of money a month, right? So prioritize reserve building. That's really important. So I want to just talk quickly on this with an example. We had a small retail business, a client that was struggling with their cash flow issues, right? Now this was primarily due to the high overheads and also their poor inventory management. Now by reassessing their budget, okay, they reduced their inventory waste and negotiated longer payment terms. I actually helped them negotiate those longer payment terms with suppliers, which freed up cash. Okay? Now, they then committed to setting aside 2%. This is where we started. 2% of every sale into a reserve fund. Now, over time, Simone, this small percentage built up, providing a cushion that later helped them through one of the biggest slow seasons, right, that happened without needing to borrow any money. They would have shut that business down had I not done that with them. If they had not met me, their business would have been shut. This wasn't about, did I make these people more money? I saved their business. But they saved it by executing my strategy. Okay? And now that same business now has over 6 months of cash reserves. Not only has survived, but they've thrived, right? And that's what I want. We've got another client at the moment who's a larger retailer, a couple of $1 million. They are really struggling. But what they have done is they've really honed in. I'm super proud of them. They've honed in, squashed their expenses. They were getting lazy. They had too many people working for them. Now they're at break even and they're like, oh my God. And now it's like, hey, Christian, where are we going to find money for marketing? It's like, well, you don't need to run ads. Go here, go there. Remember the conversation we had? And they're just like, oh my God. And then they found out that their prices were fucking 15, 20% cheaper than everybody else. Because again, something I said to them, look, I mean, I know this sounds like, oh my God, Christian, you're fucking amazing. I fucking am, right? But I'm only amazing because I have done the hard work. I'm not amazing because I was born a genius. I mean, shit, anyone who thinks that is just too fucking arrogant, right? Now, you might think I'm arrogant, and that's all well and good. You don't have to work with me. But at the same time, you can sit there and suffer and make no money, right? The reality of it is you got to work with people that have done the work. You got to put in the hard yards with people that have done the work. And I'm no longer going to sit back and stay quiet about it, right? And that's why we want to demonstrate it through this. Now, some of the actionable outcomes that you have to take, just to wrap this question up, is that you got to regularly review your financial health. You got to communicate those bloody financial goals to your team, and you got to celebrate the milestones. Okay? So starting a cash reserve where funds are tight, that requires careful planning, it requires budget adjustments, some creative thinking regarding the revenue generation. But taking these steps, Simone, you can actually begin to safeguard your business and its financial future, but also be able to take control of those opportunities as they come about. I know it took me a while to answer that question. In fact, every question is taking about 10 minutes. This is pretty solid. So, this is great for
There's so much in this. This is great. Well, and I always love it when I can pick a topic that you get so passionate and riled up about. My work is done when I can hit that milestone of my interviewing for you, Christian. All right, well, let's finish up with something. Let's flip it a little bit. And I want to ask you, what are the big risks? What shit is hitting the fan if you do not have cash reserves in your business?
Well, I think I just gave
really a make or break situation.
Well, I think I just gave you a couple of really good examples of why you need to do it. But I think what's really important to understand is not maintaining any kind of cash reserve will expose your business, right, to several risks, potentially jeopardizing its stability and future growth. Understanding the risks, is really important. I think that's why this thing should probably get uploaded into our growth school community, so the people that aren't watching it can actually dive in. But vulnerability to cash flow disruptions, that's the biggest one, right? When you've got cash in the bank, it's your money. No one can touch it. Yeah. That's yours, right? That's so important, right? So that's the big one. The other thing is, by not having those reserves, you actually limit your ability to seize opportunities. Now, everyone knows I'm not really a problem solver, right? I know, ridiculous. I'm a massive problem solver. But I'm actually, what I love to jam in is I'm an opportunity creator, right? That's where I love making people money, right? If I want to do turnarounds, I'd just go back to M&A. I'd go and do my own merger and acquisitions. Why the fuck would I go help you for 20 grand when I can go and buy that company and turn it around myself and sell it for $1 million, right? And this is the difference. Like, when you work with some coaches out there, they have no concept of what I just said because they've never done it, right? So they're happy to go, let me just walk you through this scenario. Fuck the scenario, right? So for me, and this is where we're trying to change the direction of our growth school, is to say, hey, you're already a good business. We're going to make you great. That's what I want to do, right? Yeah. And why? Because I got ego. I am so selfish, right? I want people to say, Christian, you help me do that. That's all I want. And I want to be paid handsomely for it, right? But the reality of it is, that's what you want when you're hiring someone. You don't want someone who's just like, give me your money and let's see where we go. Let's solve some of your problems. Yeah, good on you. Yeah. That's great. That's awesome, right? So this is how you solve one of your biggest problems. Put the money in the bank, right? Yeah. So
because I'm going to assume as well, I've never been in the position of this, but asking for money or getting, those loans and things, that's a lengthy process. So you could be missing the opportunity, right? And if they say no, then you're stuffed. How do you actually maximize?
Simone, you just put a fucking spear through my heart, right? You reminded me of exactly why I build war chests. When I was Christian 1.0, turning over $30 million, when everyone thought I was this massive icon, right? Like, this real big deal in hospitality, in technology, in media, as a young 30-year-old. I had no cash reserves. No cash reserves. I was just sinking my money. Yes, I drove beautiful cars and lived in beautiful houses and I had investments. I didn't own shit. It was all owned by the bank. And when the GFC came and we couldn't raise the VC money for one of the tech companies and we'd overcapitalized and overinvested, guess what happened? The spiraling down the shithole, right? And, and I started from zero. Well, I started worse. I started from $500,000 back after I paid everything from the couch of a mate's house. And you know what? I swore to myself I'd never be there. And you know what? The next 3 years, I went wild and I made bucket loads of money and I blew it all and still didn't have the cash reserve because I was dealing with all the trauma and the bullshit, right? But you know what? As soon as I met my wife and she told me that we were having Leo, I was like, holy shit, we can't live in a small little 2-bedroom cottage with what's going on. I can't keep investing money into all these crazy entrepreneurial ideas just because I want to validate my ego. I need to look after these guys now. And if you're a parent and you're not doing that and that's not your mindset, you're fucking irresponsible, right? And I know that that's going to piss off people listening. That's great. I don't need you in my life. Because if you aren't responsible for your own family, you won't be responsible for your people. And if you're not responsible for your people, then you're a shit employer, right? And I'm overhearing how all employers are bad. That's not true. There's a majority of people doing business out there that truly give a shit about their team. And sometimes it goes bad and it's fucked, right? But no one good ever tries to screw people over, right? And so it starts with having solid values about your family, solid values about, and don't get me wrong, this is hard work. You know, and if anyone out there says, it's all good for you, Christian, you now have made it. I just told you. I'd made it by not following the rules. I lost everything, still didn't follow the bloody rules because I am, stupid. Right? Like, my ADHD and dyslexia doesn't quite come together sometimes. But the moment I knew that we had to care for not just Lucy, she's capable of looking after herself, but my son, and then my daughter came, it's like, yeah, by the time my daughter came, though, we were cranking because I'd spent 2 years putting away money following that system. And if you're coming into this call now, I've seen another 30, 40 people just join. You need to go back and watch the first 35 minutes of this episode because it is insane. You're getting me raw, okay? Yeah. So, the other things, Simone, so I talked about, the difficulty in weathering any kind of economic downturn. What the big one is that you've got increased resilience on external financing, right? Because without the cash reserve, you're going to have to rely heavily on getting that external financing. Like you said, that shit takes time. And that's why then people go, oh, the bank takes too long, so I'm going to go find a shark. Good on you. You just dug your hole bigger, right? If you had the cash reserve, you'd have a bigger runway, right? Like this stuff is hard to hear, okay? It's hard to hear. And I think that's why I've got to give it with so much passion and with so much love. There's love in this. I know it might sound like I might be being aggressive and I'm being a shit about it. This is love. This is tough love. This is coming from real life experience. And it's painful, man. I've been where, if you are there, I feel for you. Follow this. And if you survive, you're going to thank me for it. You're going to say, Christian, you're a prick. But you follow this, you will thank me for it. And you will actually go in 2 years' time, hey, Christian, I can afford to work with you. Now, can we double my revenue? Can we increase my cash at bank by 5 times? Can you help me reduce my key person dependency by 50% in 12 months? Abso-fucking-lutely. And it'd be my pleasure to do that. Because then you've gone to good and you're ready to go to great. And fuck, man, I love this. This is like epic. You can see how much I learned last week. Now you're seeing it. Because this is me just going full throttle. And I think the other thing is, by not having the cash reserve, you're risking damaging your supplier and customer relationships. It means that you're also, without that buffer, you're not focusing on any operational inefficiencies, right? So, and I think, the example that I used about some of our clients, right? If you get into a downturn, you don't want the stress and pressure of not being able to afford to pay your people. You can't run a business if you're in retail without people, right? You can't work 80, 90 hours a week if you own a restaurant. And you know how many restaurateurs do that to save that one wage? And then they burn out. Then they have terrible marriages. Chefs are out there committing suicide at historic rates, right? I came from that industry. I know what it's all about. And yet, when I was away in Fiji, people asked me, you're such a boss in that industry. Why don't you consult to it? Because they're all egotistical fucking maniacs like I used to be. They don't listen, right? I mean, I've got a couple of big groups that I provide advice to, but the one-off places, the two-off places, and it's all show. There's never any fucking money because you only buy one of those venues to fill your ego, right? It's a passion job, right? And I was out with my mates the day before we went to Fiji. We're called the Awesome Foursome. We all studied hotel management together at the Swiss Hotel School, and we've been buddies ever since. It's been 30 years, right? And we're known as the Awesome Foursome now. Now we're just the old Awesome Foursome. No relation to the rowing team. None of us are fit, right? One of the guys is, he's still a kite surfer, right? But we're talking about how tough it is, and not one of us is still in the industry. Do you know what I mean? But we were talking about the importance of family, the importance of balance, and those things aren't taught when you're at college. It's like work, network, build. I grew up in the environment where you're doing 80, 90 hours a week, right? 100 plus hours. Like, what the hell? That's insane. You don't have to do that. That means you're not operating efficiently. If you got your cash reserves, guess what? You don't have to work that way. So,
100%. I think, a really great resource that I had very early on was a book, Profit First. I know we're familiar. We talk about this with our client. Don't know how to pronounce Mike's last name properly, but Mike Mansowitz, something to that effect. That really
pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first, right? And understanding those concepts of chipping away, even when it was one PT session, just going, all right, there's a small percentage of that that's going away to a cash reserve. So this is really any business at any stage, right? This is not something that when I'm at this size, then I'll have a cash reserve.
Caveat on that one. Excellent book, right? Everyone should read it. But if you're a startup, don't, right? Because when you're starting up and you're trying to get to the first 10, 20, 30 grand a month, all your money generally goes reinvested back in. You know, having been the entrepreneur in resident of Adelaide University and working with, startups, and, startups live on Red Bull cans, which are expensive, by the way, and you shouldn't drink them, and protein powder and 2-minute noodles. Okay? Founders are notorious for living on those things. It's a shit badge of honor, and I don't advise it. When I was there, I ripped all that shit out. I said, you bring that shit in here, right? And you're fucked. Get out. Eat whole foods, nourish yourself, but I can't afford it. Yes, you can, because you can't afford not to. Because if you burn out, right, then no one's going to invest in you. Okay? If you look like a founder who's going hungry, then every investor, every angel out there knows that they can screw you, right? And all of a sudden, the mind shift at ThinkLab changed significantly. All these founders were like, yeah, you're right. And if it wasn't for one of our actual manager, Renee, who used to put on the most incredible events in order to feed all the startups, right? But it was there for other people, and we brought in partners, and those strategic partners would then see, look at the way, these guys are treating their startups. There's respect, dignity, right? We got rid of all the shark investors. Like, get out. And I was hated for it. Like, oh, what do you mean? You're now killing my... Get out. The Silicon Valley approach to starving and destroying startups so you can maximize your return is ridiculous. Invest in the founder. Build the founder. Encourage the founder. Help the founder grow. That's no different to helping scale-ups. Don't starve the founders. Don't starve the CEO. Encourage them. Pay yourself first when you're at that point. So, I think that's what I'm trying to say is you've got to manage that expectation on that first part. And I think that, what I love about that question, Simone, is it just shows the breadth, right, of our advisory capabilities at Growth School and in our business. Because we can go from startup to scale up to elephants, right? Like, there's not many people in the world that have that level of experience. And it comes from having an excellent coaching team, right, that supports the leadership, which is me, and then me and 80 ventures later, right, being able to say, hey, and not just the 80 ventures, what is it, the 1,361 clients? Like, I'm doing the math now because I've realized we've never told the story. Well, hello, that's how many clients we've helped, and they've generated something like $3.2 billion in sales. Like, when I did that math, I was falling over, and I'm like, Lucy's like, what are you doing? And I'm on the plane, riding. And Lucy's like, what are you doing? I said, those stats that we got to do, right? And I'm like, I've been doing them. She goes, you're so crazy. When you get it in your head, I'm like, I'm not wasting my life anymore. This is it. So for me, it's about leveling up, raising your standards, right? Pushing the boundaries, okay? And there's no point in being a secret, right? Because if you're a secret, you're not helping anyone. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping the people that need you the most. Anyway, that's a drop the mic. It's 45 minutes. What an epic session, right? I'm trying to look at which camera I'm meant to be looking at.
We've dropped so many golden nuggets, dropped the mic.
And some F-bombs.
There are some F-bombs in this today as well. We've talked all about warchest, which is having those cash reserves in your business, cash stash, however you want to unpack that. It is something you definitely need to be paying attention to, and you've dropped the wisdom in on this episode today. Christian Lavolsi, thank you for your time and insights as always. I love a good episode when you get so passionate and riled up and you just tell it how it is.
Man, I'm sweating. Like, I'm in here going, wow, did I drop that? And at the same time, you know what? I'm sitting here and I'm saying, if you loved it, drop us a love heart. If you're on YouTube, oh, by the way, everyone on YouTube, you are awesome, right? We're on the verge of hitting 2,000 subscribers. Just put this into perspective. We have not invested in YouTube at all other than dropping videos, right? And 3 months ago, I said, That's it. Can't do it. Leonardo's like, Pa, you're never going to get to 1,000 subscribers, right? I'm like, what do you mean? My son, we hit the 1,000. We're now almost at, I think, 1,700, right? So, please go on there, subscribe. But what blows me away is we're doing like 3,000, 4,000 watch hours every week. So the people that you're on there, thank you for watching the content. Drop some comments, because other than the stats on YT Studio, I don't know who you are. I just know you come from Australia. There's a huge American following that's coming, and FYI, keep it coming, because I'm going to open up Growth School in America next year, right? God willing, that is the plan, because, you, like us Australians, need help, right? And I want to capitalize on that ability to help. But yeah, it's been amazing. The YouTube journey has been epic. And it was one of the only big things that we did was starting to drop the hot seat live in there, and then getting Daniel. Big shout out to Daniel. Daniel's a new team member who joined us 2 months ago. Unbelievable video editor. You're a total rock star, dude. I actually caught up with Ken, his former boss, Ken Ozaki, Japanese man, speaks American. Nuts. We were talking about this. And I thank Ken. I said, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And he goes, I got a couple more dudes in my business that if you want them, I'm like, slow down. I may. But Daniel's a gun. So Daniel's been doing heaps of cool stuff. And last thing, is it today? The documentary is finally being dropped today. Is it today, the 20th? I'm pretty sure it's today, right? No?
Well, today's the 20th, so yes.
Yeah, it might be today, tomorrow.
Today is the day.
Yeah, we've seen a massive uptake of people watching the shorts and the reels that have come from that. I've got to say, I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I'm really nervous because I'm incredibly vulnerable in this documentary. And I think Simi Rayet did an amazing job capturing the true essence of who I am and helping me level up as a leader, that extra 2% that I needed. And this is the byproduct of it, the ability to blend my dark and bright side and give better value, free value to all of our listeners out there. So big shout out to all of you guys. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. And there's one more group I need to thank, our clients. Our clients at COD and at Growth School who put up with my shit every single day, or at least take my abuse, which is awesome. No, seriously, without them, without their questions, I was just looking at Karim, Karim's social media. He's back in the studio. Mate, that guy's blowing me away. He's going from strength to strength to strength. He's had haters out there questioning whether or not he's making the real money that he's making. I've put them to bed. I've silenced them. And look at him go. He is gunning it, right? And I think that that's so important that people start to believe in what they're capable of doing, because he's changing the world. He's helping people through hypnosis, and he's helping them take that next step. And that next step is courage. And how do I know that? Because a lot of our clients have become his clients, and they fucking rave about it, right? And that's a drop the mic there for Karim and all of our clients that are benefiting from that. So,
well, I guess it's one thing for us to teach the advisory and the strategy, right? But if the clients don't actually do the work, then we have failed our mission.
And Karim's a good example of someone who wanted to listen to everyone but me for so long. And then finally, when I said, either you listen to me or you fuck off, right? And he's gone and he's done it. And I'm just so proud of him for that reason. And, he's built a solid foundation at home. He has reaffirmed his commitment to everything that he does. And if you don't know him, Karim from Bokta Method, right? If you haven't seen his TEDx talks, go see those. I didn't help him get those. That was someone else. But, the courage for him to stand up. This is a man who had a stutter his whole life, and overcame that stutter. Has invested probably more money on coaching than anybody I know, at least 100 times more than I have. I've only ever had 2 coaches in my life.
It makes me feel better when I hear that too.
Yeah, I spend more money than you, and you spend a lot. But I think the key is when you find your tribe, you find your tribe. Okay, and look, I know that so many of you have been glued to the headset. I can see how many people are still here. Love you guys. I can't see you, but I love you. And again, really thank you from the bottom of my heart. We are just leveling up on a constant basis, and I couldn't be more pumped for where we're going to go and where we're going to take so many amazing people and their families and their tribes. So, yeah, let's get the outro video happening because I got to go. I've got 4 minutes to get to my next call. Simone, bloody great questions. Thank you so much. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. And while I'm talking, I'm trying to find the damn button, right? So thanks very much. Peace out. See you, everybody.
Let's go.
Thank you for joining us on the hot seat. We hope today's session gave you valuable insights to drive your business forward.
Remember, every challenge is an opportunity for growth.
Every question brings us closer to the answers that can transform our businesses. Stay connected with us, follow our journey, share your thoughts, and be a part of our community.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so that you never miss future episodes. Together, let's elevate your business to new heights.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the hot seat.